The sunlit kitchen was filled with the fragrance of freshly ground coffee. I moved gracefully between the counter and the stove, arranging ingredients for breakfast. Through the wide windows of our new condominium, the Charles River shimmered beneath the morning light. The stainless steel countertops glowed softly, as if reflecting the peace of my life. Busy day ahead, honey? I called, carefully stirring the eggs while the aroma of toasted bread filled the air. Michael, already dressed in his navy suit, sat at the table, flipping through the news on his tablet. He lifted his gaze and smiled, his dark eyes warm with affection. His neatly knotted tie, polished shoes, and dignified posture made him every inch the respected director of a real estate development company. Yes, I've got a presentation on the downtown redevelopment project. It'll be a long one, but I should be home by evening. I joined him at the table, setting down avocado toast, a bowl of fresh fruit, and organic yogurt. The simple elegance of our breakfast mirrored the life we had built together. 3 years of marriage had flown by, filled with career successes, quiet evenings, and weekend traditions. He was the kind of husband I had once only dreamed about, gentle, sincere, supportive. On Saturdays, we wandered through Whole Foods together, debating ingredients and planning elaborate meals. On Sundays, we often hosted Carol, his mother, for dinner, filling the house with laughter and conversation. Yet beneath the surface of my happiness, a small ache always lingered. It came from my own family. My mother and sister, Pamela, still lived in our old home in Somerville, a once proud house now faded with age. Pamela, divorced and restless, clung to an extravagant lifestyle she couldn't sustain. Casinos, designer handbags, flashy cars. She was always chasing something bigger, always demanding more. And my mother, Dorothy, gave in every time. A retired teacher with dwindling savings, she still spoiled Pamela endlessly, blind to her recklessness. Rachel, there's a church charity event this weekend. You'll attend, won't you? The words had come from Carol just a week earlier, during Sunday brunch at her stately mansion on Brattle Street. She was a pillar of Cambridge society, her presence at First Church nearly as significant as the ministers themselves. Her influence carried weight, but more than that, she had filled a role my own mother had never managed to. To me, she was not just a mother-in-law, she was family. Those brunches were sacred. The wide windows overlooked a garden that bloomed with order and grace, so unlike the chaos of my own family home. Over tea and pastries, Carol often spoke of the future, her words laced with wisdom. But lately, there had been cracks in my peaceful life. Pamela had started appearing more often at our home, uninvited, dressed in bold designer dresses, with lips painted in shades too sharp for daytime. She would hover around Michael, brushing against him in ways that felt deliberate. "Hey, Michael," she had purred once, leaning far too close with a glass of wine in hand. "Real estate must be really profitable these days, right?" Her smile had been laced with calculation, her gaze sharp despite her playful tone. And my mother, my mother, watched it all with quiet approval, ignoring my discomfort and offering Pamela nothing but indulgent smiles. Still, I tried to shake it off. Michael loved me, I reminded myself. He had never given me reason to doubt him. My own career was thriving as a marketing manager at a luxury hotel in Kendall Square. My days were filled with meetings, strategies, and elegant events. On my days off, I practiced yoga, tended to my balcony garden, and lived a life that, outwardly at least, appeared enviable. I wanted to believe everything was fine. And on Michael's birthday, I was determined to make it perfect. At my office that afternoon, I had carefully reviewed the plans, a dinner reservation at the Charles Hotel, a bouquet of lilies, his favorite, waiting to be picked up, and the Omega watch I had hidden away for weeks, waiting for the right moment. Belgian chocolates sat neatly wrapped, the final touch of thoughtfulness. When my secretary reminded me of a meeting, I shook my head with a smile. "Not today. It's my husband's birthday, and I don't intend to be late." I left the office early, feeling a lightness in my step, but the moment I arrived at our condominium, that lightness began to falter. Several unfamiliar cars were parked in neat rows, sleek BMWs, polished Mercedes, and a flashy pink Porsche that could only belong to Pamela. Among them, I spotted vehicles I recognized from Michael's colleagues, and tucked between them was Mother's car. A strange unease settled over me. My hands trembled slightly as I pressed the elevator button. The mirrored doors reflected my face, smiling just moments ago, now shadowed with worry. When the elevator opened and I stepped into the hallway, the sound hit me first. Laughter, glasses clinking, the unmistakable pop of champagne, and then Pamela's high-pitched giggle, echoing with the sharpness of heels against marble floors. I froze at the door, the key in my hand. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Steeling myself, I turned the knob and stepped inside. The sight shattered me. Our home had been transformed into a stage for betrayal. 20 people stood scattered across the living room, glasses raised, laughter lingering awkwardly as they noticed me. Platters of catered food gleamed beneath the soft lights. A grand cake sat at the center, candles glowing mockingly. And there he was, Michael, my husband. Still in his navy suit, the same one from breakfast. The faint stain of coffee on his cuff, the one I had left that morning, burned in my vision, and pressed against him, arm entwined with his, lips grazing his cheek, was Pamela. My sister. She was radiant in a red Hervé Léger dress, her body shimmering with diamonds, including the necklace I recognized, our mother's heirloom, once promised to me. The room seemed to tilt. My pulse roared in my ears. Mother, Dorothy, was the first to recover. She stood, adjusting the lapel of her Chanel suit, and smiled as if nothing were out of place. Rachel, how unusual to see you home early. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hard, cutting through me like glass. Pamela smirked, planting a slow, exaggerated kiss on Michael's cheek, leaving behind a vivid red stain. She turned, locking eyes with me, and whispered with a taunting smile. Oops, busted. The gift bag slipped from my hand, the Omega watch tumbled, the ribbon snapping, landing with a hollow sound against the floor. For a moment, the world went silent. Every eye in the room turned toward me. Michael's face drained of color. His glass shook in his hand. Then Mother's heels clicked as she approached. She stood over me, her presence commanding, her voice colder than I had ever heard. Sign the divorce papers and keep quiet. The words cut through me like shards of ice. I felt my breath catch. The life I had built, the love I had cherished, crumbled in that instant. Without a word, I turned. Tears blurred my vision, but I held my head high, straightening my back as if clinging to the last piece of dignity left to me. The engagement ring on my finger caught the light, mocking me with its sparkle. Behind me, I heard Michael's voice, desperate. Rachel, wait, let me explain. But his words could not reach me anymore. The door closed. My heels clicked against the polished hallway floor. The Cambridge night air greeted me as I stepped outside, the cool breeze drying my tears. Beneath the glow of Harvard Square's streetlights, I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. My thumb hovered only a moment before pressing the number I needed most. Hello, Carol? I whispered when the line connected. Do you have a moment? Her steady, calm voice flowed through the receiver like light cutting through the darkness. In that moment, I knew, this wasn't the end, it was only the beginning. Anger burned in Michael's voice, but it was laced with exhaustion as he continued. His hands clenched the armrests of the chair, his knuckles pale. She said she'd cancel the debt in exchange for confidential information about the company's new projects. The room froze, heavy with the weight of his confession. Beyond the tall window, MIT's iconic dome glowed faintly against the night sky, its solemn presence casting a reminder of knowledge and integrity, everything Pamela had trampled on. I refused, Michael said at last, his words sharp with conviction. But she wouldn't give up. She called every day, showed up at the office, cornered me at meetings. His voice faltered, drops of sweat beaded on his forehead, sliding down his temple. Then he whispered, almost as if ashamed, and then, even Mother joined her. I gasped softly, my whole body shivered, as though a cold wind had cut through the warm room. Carol, sitting across from us, lowered her porcelain cup with deliberate care. The clink of china against the saucer echoed like thunder in the silence. Slowly, she lifted her gaze and locked it on Michael. She took Pamela's side. He admitted hoarsely, Mother pressured me, saying things like, it's only natural to help your sister's family. You should provide some information. Michael, it won't harm anything. That was when I realized the reason behind her blind obsession. Pamela wasn't just her daughter. She had become her weakness, her vice, her idol. Even reason had been clouded. The words struck deep, and my heart twisted. This wasn't just about betrayal, it was a corruption of family itself. But why? My voice trembled despite my effort to steady it. Why stage a spectacle like today? Why humiliate me in front of everyone? Michael's expression contorted with pain. He looked away, as though unable to face me. Pamela told me this was her last resort. If I didn't cooperate, she'd tell you everything. But it wasn't me she wanted to break. It was you. His eyes flicked toward mine, brimming with regret. She said she would destroy Rachel's happiness. Tonight's party wasn't a celebration. It was the execution of that threat. And Mother, he swallowed hard. Mother chose to help her do it, in front of everyone. The weight of his words pressed down like stone. Betrayal had been written into the evening, disguised as festivity. Carol rose then, her every movement measured, her presence radiating authority. She stood tall against the backdrop of the Boston skyline, the moonlight sketching her silhouette in silver. The matriarch of the Brown family, more formidable than any judge or priest. Michael, she said, her voice cool and precise, your judgment in refusing Pamela was correct. But your failure lay in concealment. You thought silence would protect peace. At that, Michael bowed his head deeply, shoulders sagging with shame. His voice cracked. Rachel, I'm so sorry. I thought I was shielding you, shielding us. But by hiding everything, I only gave Pamela the chance to strike. I brought about the very disaster I wanted to prevent. His confession broke something inside me, yet also clarified everything. Betrayal had worn too many masks, but at last the truth was revealed. Carol stepped closer to the window, her hands clasped behind her back, her spine straight. Her reflection glimmered in the glass as the city stretched out before us. Her words fell into the silence like a verdict. This is no longer a petty family quarrel. What we face now is criminal, illegal gambling, attempted theft of corporate secrets, and tonight's malicious display. Malice cloaked in the guise of love is the most dangerous force of all. I stared at her profile, realizing I was not looking at a mother-in-law, but at a woman who embodied both justice and resolve. What will happen to Pamela and my mother? My voice wavered, betraying the conflict inside me. They were my blood, yet strangers now. Carol turned, her face softening into a gentle smile, but her eyes burned with unshakable will. Do not trouble yourself. I will ensure everything is handled properly, lawfully, and without hesitation. In that moment, I knew Pamela's reckless power would crumble against Carol's iron hand. Outside, the Charles River shimmered under the moonlight, the ripples catching faint silver threads. It was as though the city itself held its breath, waiting. Carol's words cut through the stillness, sharp and resolute. Now then, Rachel, Michael, tomorrow is not a continuation of today, it is the start of a new chapter. From here begins our counterattack. Her declaration settled over me like a vow. The night was no longer one of despair, but of awakening. And as the river glistened quietly under the moon, I felt it, the faint pulse of something new, strength. This was not the end of my story. It was only the beginning of the reckoning.